All right, Wiz. So we got another no-code builder today. What's the take? No code? Is this 2026? Is it the year of no code for everybody? What's going on?
I mean, we're getting more and more no-code tools. That's for dang sure.
We are. We got another agent builder today. We're going to build some agents. Is it easy? Is it as easy as it says on the tin?
No. It does do stuff though, and I love that it does stuff.
Yeah, and it really surprised me with the interface that LangSmith decided to use on this one. I was expecting something wildly different, as we'll see, and then we've got sort of the other agent builder that we're also going to demo today. So we're going to see a nice side-by-side comparison of the no-code, low-code tooling as we head into 2026, the state of the art. And we're going to talk today about where we should be using it. And importantly, I think as AI engineers, it's like, where should we encourage our teammates that are less codey than us to use it? So what's the TLDR from you? I mean, if you were going to recommend to a product manager or to a manager or to a data scientist or somebody who's not writing as much code as the software AI engineer, do you have a favorite low-code tool yet?
I don't have a favorite low-code tool yet. No, I really don't. I mean, I haven't found one that I jive with or that I think is, maximally useful yet. But there's a lot of them. One of them ought to hit at some point.
That's right. And there is this emergence, I notice, of people trying to serve that community, that lesser technical community. And I think there's a lot of interest, certainly from our audience and from a lot of people's audience, to get this right. So I expect some significant improvements in 2026. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off today so everybody can see a little bit more about why you feel the way you do as a coder. And this will give everybody some insights into how they should be thinking about picking up the right tool for the right job as they build, ship, and share some agents 2026. You ready to rock?
I couldn't be more ready to rock. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another weekly Wednesday AI Makerspace event. This week, we decided to talk Agent Builder with LangSmith. This recently came out. LangChain's been shipping like a bunch of legends ever since they raised Series B, just crazy with the speed. And we thought this was going to be a really nice one to sort of start wrapping up the year with. We will do prompt optimization next week with DSPY. That'll be a little bit more technical, but this one should be a lot of fun. And we can look at both the LangSmith Agent Builder and then the OpenAI Agent Builder, and we'll see they're actually wildly different. So what you'll get if you stick with us today is you'll learn how should we be thinking about picking up these tools, encouraging others to pick up these tools that we work with, and how should we be thinking about the difference between agent builders, workflow builders, and everything in between. Okay, let's go ahead and kick this thing off today. Agent Builder with LangSmith. Let's see what we got for you today. As we align ourselves to the next 55 minutes that we'll spend together, we want to check out this no-code builder, and we're going to get into it quick today with Wiz's demo. This is for building agents, not workflows. Understand the 4 core components of what's going on under the hood, or at least understand a little bit about the evolution of what's been happening under the hood. Because they released in sort of a private beta in October. They just released the public beta last week. And then we want to learn as much as we can about how this works under the hood. It seems to be a little bit more secretive than it was in the private beta. And then we want to compare the build that we do with LangSmith Agent Builder to similar things we might want to do with OpenAI's Agent Builder, and where we run into brick walls, some bottlenecks in each of these. Okay, there was a really cool article put out this week also by LangChain on sort of defining agent engineering. And I think it provides some nice context to this whole idea of low code and no code builders. So we're going to look at both of these. We're going to build with both of them. It should be some fun today. Okay, so agent engineering. We've been talking about this a lot on this channel. We're all in on agent engineering for our next AI Engineering Bootcamp. And we're starting to see some definitions emerge. And this should be interesting to watch them kind of crystallize into 2026 after 2025, the year of agents. Quote, if you've built an agent, you know that the delta between it works on my machine and it works in production can be huge. Okay, correct. Now, we talked about in the agent engineering event that they were kind of playing with this idea of agent engineering in the release of LangChain v1.0. The reality is that agents are easy to prototype but hard to ship to production. That's because any input or change to an agent can create a host of unknown outcomes. Building reliable agents requires a new approach, one that combines product, engineering, and data science. And it's all about these non-deterministic LLM systems and getting the whole team together to build them in production. Now we've got a definition, agent engineering. Unsurprisingly, we see it's the iterative process of refining non-deterministic LLM systems into reliable production experiences. Cyclical process here. Classic agent. Very agentic. It's build, test, ship, observe, refine, repeat. Or maybe we might say build, ship, share, repeat. They got a beautiful diagram here. And you kind of build, test, ship, observe, refine, repeat. Now we got product and engineering and data science. Now check this out. Product's got to be writing the prompts, scoping the job to be done, defining evals, those sweet evals. We got to be having a product thinking hat on while we're doing that, because it has to align, as we talked about last week with Lucas, with the reality of what our users are seeing. Engineering, this is what we're all focused on and doing. We're going to be writing tools for the agents, and that is a real dark, wide chasm of potential. What does that actually mean? Agents are tools, workflows are tools, tools are this is a real key to what we want to be able to start mastering and get on the path towards mastery and as AI engineers in 2026. Developing the agent UI and UX and making sure that we got those durable runtimes. We can put humans in the loop. We can manage memory. We can deal with pausing and still creating a great user experience. And data science, analyzing performance, trying to help out with that kind of classic ML ops type stuff, A/B testing, etc. Okay, so agent engineering isn't a new job title. It's a set of responsibilities that the whole team needs to take on. So the orgs that are doing this today are essentially extending the skills of each of these teams to meet the demands of these non-deterministic systems. One of the ways which we're seeing the industry try to serve this extension of skills towards non-technical users is with agent builders. And straight from the top, when they released this in private beta, they said, we hear from engineering teams how their colleagues, non-engineers, want to build their own agents. And so now we're starting to see this come together in a nice hierarchy, at least in the LangX ecosystem. We've gone over it in the OpenAI ecosystem before as well. But the agent builder here is for non-technical users, or maybe, we'll see what Wiz thinks, engineers who need no-code rapid prototyping. LangSmith Agent Builder here is for internal productivity assistance. We've talked, of course, about all of these other ones at length. And so we can kind of think about this idea of who exactly needs the internal productivity assistant level of building agents. Maybe all of these teams, but maybe it's focused less on engineering and more on the other teams. For instance, when we talk about engineers, they're kind of handling the engineering, the writing of the code. So picking up a no-code tool has to make a lot of sense for us to want to do that. Whereas product managers and data scientists writing prompts, defining scope, they're already leveraging tools like ChatGPT. Can they basically take it a step further and do a quick prototype? And can that easily be handed off to an engineering team with these builders? Well, as we'll see today, it's not quite that simple yet, but perhaps it will be in 2026. Importantly, as they call out during the release this week, this agent builder is different from traditional AI workflow builders. And they really center around this idea of productivity. This is not unique to LangChain or unique to any company. This is what we're seeing across the industry, especially over the past few weeks. For instance, you may have seen that OpenAI released the State of Enterprise AI report this week. And this was number 2 of 4 key findings in that enterprise report. Enterprises that leverage AI are experiencing measurable productivity and business impact. This is very ROI generating stuff. People are very excited about this. What are we seeing? We're seeing that greater productivity leads to more hours per week saved. And if we measure intelligence consumed by credits used, you can think of this as a proxy for like token usage. The 10 hours or more per week group is, 10 hours or more saved per week group is using more credits. So how do we get people being more productive, using more credits, saving more time, right? That's what OpenAI is thinking. Now, it's not just OpenAI. Also, this was from how people use AI agents from Perplexity, from their data on Comet and use of Perplexity. And they're kind of noting that this thinking partner more than a butler is kind of the broad stroke here. And the thinking partner is helping with productivity and workflow tasks. What kind of tasks? Well, things like document and form editing, things like email management, spreadsheet editing, and account management. There's a lot of sort of these high level, kind of not that complex set of use cases that enterprise really needs. And this is all being done today with like ChatGPT style interfaces for the most part. And so that's where we start with our agent builder today. We're actually going to start a conversation rather than build an agent piece by piece. So we're going to see a very familiar interface for our no-code building of agents, which remember is, again, focused on internal productivity assistance, focused on non-technical users. And as LangChain kind of noted last week, although they just put this out, they're seeing a few patterns emerge. And there are people creating role-specific research agents. Basically, I would encourage you to look at this slide and pick any word in yellow that you're interested in. Role-specific research agents like in sales or marketing. Also, other parts of companies turning ambient information into tracked projects, kind of prioritization you could think about, or also just communication savings and time savings, all kind of towards this personal productivity space. And as they say, and as we'll kind of cover in this first demo, it's as simple as slacking a teammate. Yo, agent, can you build yourself like this? Operate like a manager, not a programmer, through a very familiar, very comfortable chat interface. How does it work? Well, let's go to the Wiz to see exactly how the new agent builder through chat works. Wiz, take it away.
Yeah, what's up? So we're going to look at the new agent builder and you know what? We're going to have a blast. That's what we're going to do. We're about to have such a fun time. So number one, this is available through the LangSmith interface. The idea is that we're in LangSmith and we're in, code first mode. All we've got to do is toggle to no code mode. And suddenly you can see we're in a totally different mode. And this has much less information. It is much less useful. But it lets us build cool agents. So that's pretty cool. The big idea here is that we have a number of ways we can build these agents. Number one, there's a bunch of templates, right? These templates help you do stuff. You can do things like build an email assistant, except you can't do that right now because their OAuth is broken. You can do things like build a daily calendar brief, which you also can't do right now because their OAuth is broken. You could do a LinkedIn recruiter, so that's neato, or a linear Slack bot. What we've gone ahead and created was the AI Makerspace PR Summarizer. And this is a pretty straightforward agent. It lets you chat with it. And the chat you can have is basically big chillin'. You can ask it to summarize some PRs for you. And once it does that, it's going to send you a DM. And that DM is going to be, a summarization of your PRs. So we're going to see that DM at the end of the session. Now, in order to make this agent, which looks like this, by the way, right? We have a scheduled trigger. We have this AI Makerspace PR Summarizer. We have some tools it can use. We have these integrations here. We have some triggers we can add. This is all dope. And it's a lot of stuff, as you can see. And it's created largely through this chat interface. So let's go back to my agents and let's click create a new agent. Let's say something like, I want to create an agent that that can connect to my Slack and GitHub, and I want to be able to ping the actual Slack bot, through DMs or a channel, and then get a summary of my PRs for a specific repository. Okay, so this is the idea, right? Now, when I click go, we're going to see a bunch of stuff happening. And that bunch of stuff is basically going to verify that it can actually produce this agent. And you might ask, why does it have to do this? Well, this morning, Greg and I decided we wanted to create a few different agents. And the first one we wanted to create was a Discord bot. And what happened is that it searched and it said, I can't do that because I don't do Discord, my dude. And we were like, damn, in order to build this awesome Discord bot, we'd have to write code. Well, that's no good. We're not going to do that. And then we said, okay, well, hey, you know what? Let's build, we saw that it had a LinkedIn integration. We said, let's just have it build a bot that reacts with a thumbs up every time that Greg posts and tags me. So I never miss a post from Greg, making sure he gets those reactions. Though, of course, I would never miss a post from Greg, and neither should you, by the way. Follow that guy on LinkedIn. Okay, but you'll notice we couldn't do that because it doesn't have that functionality. So we'd have to write code, and again, we're just not going to do that, right? We want the no code experience. And so something that's interesting that it is saying it's doing, and I don't know if this is really happening yet, but it's saying it's submitting requests for these tools. And if it really is, that is interesting, right? Because basically it's a feedback collection mechanism. If you try to do something and it fails, it's going to alert the team working on it. So hopefully one day we're able to create these these very simple applications without writing any code ourselves. Of course, we could write an MCP server for Discord, or we could just create the bot ourselves using LangGraph or using LangChain, right? But the point of this is to do it with no code, and that's how we landed on this particular use case, which is Slack and GitHub. So we've officially checked all of the tools. We have all of the tools, and now we get some follow-up questions. In this case, we get one follow-up. And I'm going to say for this follow-up, which is, should the agent summarize only your PRs, one you authored, or all PRs in the repository? I'm going to say all PRs in the repository and click submit answer. I love this interface. This is cool. It not only asks you a question and lets you answer however you want, but it gives you some preceded answers that likely it should work. And now we can see it actually generating the agent. Very cool. It's building some metadata, which we can look at. It's setting up our toolbox, which is very cool. And then it's going to, after finishing that, it's going to eventually let us click the build agent button. Here's some instructions. These instructions are basically the system prompt. And the idea here, again, is that you can just, I could be right now, I could be drinking a coffee. I could be doing important work like responding to emails or something, right? My agent's being built in the background. Now, something that's interesting is you can staple these agents together, which is pretty cool. Something else that's interesting is going to ask to connect to our Slack. So we can go ahead and click this connect button. We can go ahead and choose the AI Makerspace Slack. We can see that we've authenticated. We can now close this window. And now what we're going to do is on this select registrations, I'm going to choose PR bot. And I'm going to go ahead and actually, we'll add a trigger. We'll add a new trigger. And this will be in our build ship share. We want it to, I'm looking on the other screen for a second. We want this channel ID. Boom. And it's called, PR bot, register Slack, PR bot. We love to see it, hit create agent. Okay. We have failed to set up agent trigger. So we get this failure mode for some reason. Maybe it's because I tried to add a new one. So we'll click the old PR bot and it worked. There we go. I have no idea what happened, but I'm not here to worry about the code. I'm not here to worry about errors. I'm here to get my agent built. Okay. So every time I see an error, I'm just going to click stuff until it goes away. Right. I don't want to deal with all of these codes and all of these things. So now let's look at our agent. See, its instructions make sense, right? We have a bunch of different tools. Review required. No way, we're getting rid of that. I don't want to have to review stuff. I just want my agent to work, right? And you can see this. This is something that is that I have found is common. And please understand, this is in public beta, guys. So they're not done cooking. Okay, they're collecting big feedback. But you'll remember when I asked it to create the agent, I asked it to trigger off of sending a DM, right? Or posting in a channel. But when I look at the actual agent, you'll notice it has no triggers, right? So I actually have to add those triggers myself. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and use that same ID. I'm going to say it's called PR bot. We're going to register this. We're gonna we have this new trigger now. We can hit save changes, and then we see this failed to update agent triggers again. So we have to remove the triggers. We're gonna add them one more time, and hopefully this time it works. We see here save change. Okay, that's good. And I'm gonna go back to the agent now. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna submit the request in Slack, and we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna say like, "Yo, where my report at?" And what we should see is this request come in. So this is a thread, and we can see in this request, "Yo, where my report at?" Right? So the idea here is pretty straightforward. We have effectively created an agent that's going to do this thing. And when I see it here, I'd be happy to get you a PR report, but I need to know what repository you'd be interested in. Okay, well, you know what? We can do that. Let's go to our AI Makerspace, GitHub, and we're gonna go to our GitHub here, and I'm gonna look at something that is public. So look, awesome. Index is public. It doesn't have any pull requests. Let's just see what it can do here. I'm going to go ahead and capture that. And I'm going to post this back to my agent. And we're going to go back to look at it. And we're going to see, this is fine, whatever. We're going to go ahead and wait for it to continue to work. And it's going to eventually send that report. The idea here is that we have the ability, right, to use this agent to do this thing. And we find in Slack, I got a message that says PR summary for AI Makerspace, no open pull requests found, which is true, right? So it does the thing. And the whole process took us, 6-7 minutes, right? Didn't have to write a lick of code. Sure, it's double sending messages, and sure, there's a bunch of other issues. But if we ignore that and we pretend like we couldn't have done this better if we had coded it ourselves, right? And again, recognizing this is in public beta, and again, recognizing that a lot of the knowledge we've built up over time is quite specialized, right? This is cool. This would be useful. If I didn't know how to do any of this and I wanted this functionality, I just got it. And it took no specialized knowledge. I didn't have to read or adjust any errors. I just mashing keys and it worked out fine. So pretty interesting tool. Again, this is public beta. So please understand, right? This is not the finished product. This is not the end of the road for this tool. I do prefer this experience, this UI experience to Agent Builder from OpenAI, which we're going to talk about after we hear from Greg again. With that, we'll go back to Greg, and then we'll come back in a little bit.
Okay, well, it's a quick discussion here.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we think about like kind of the dream of this thing.
That's right.
Like when we got together this morning, we were like, oh, like I could think of a bunch of things that right now, as people running a business, AI Makerspace, there's a bunch of like annoying little automations that, I'm always having to set up and maintain on Zapier and these other tools and like a chat based, like just make it happen. Let me give you the logins or whatever. It kind of feels like the dream. Like when it does work, I feel like this is going to be kind of standard practice. This is kind of going to be the multiplier that, kind of founder level people certainly have been kind of dreaming about. Don't you think?
I am I'm not the right guy to answer that question. But what I can say without any hesitation is when it works, it will be dope.
Yeah.
But the broadness of the ecosystem means that works is a big word here, right?
Yeah.
Because it's when it works for me in my specialized use case and my specialized company with my specialized tools, that feels much further away from when it works with the 6 pre-selected tools. And I do think that this is part of the problem, is that we live in a very, imagine this, right? We live in a world where it's never been simpler to create new technology. It's never been simpler to create new tools. It's never been simpler to create anything. Okay. And this is dope, but it means that we all have like very bespoke, personalized tooling. And therefore, these meta tools or agent builders and things like this, right? They have to be able to interact with our bespoke tooling. And that's a very difficult thing to be able to do reliably for everybody, right? So it's the age of ultra personalization is kind of a little bit at odds with this idea of these meta building tools. So yeah,
because each of us kind of has our own production environment, and it's not just a quick prototype that you need all the time. It's like no, I need you to integrate into this existing thing that's already running all the time, and like that's less trivial as we are constantly battling and trying to teach people this stuff. So how did you feel about providing like OAuth information to this thing? did you have security concerns? I know we talked about calendar and I'm not going to give him my Gmail, like kind of thing. How concerned should we be using something like this? Oh, sure. Here's my login, kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a specific concern, and that specific concern is I don't have a way to remove access. So I can delete the agent, but I don't actually have a way to remove OAuth access from what I've permitted through Agent Builder. Now, assuming these things are held at a per project level, that means when I delete that, it is gone, which is good. It makes me feel slightly better, but I don't actually know.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of roughness in terms of OAuth, where like I actually have to I have to change the authorization sometimes, but there's not like an easy or transparent way to do that, and all of these other things that lead me to feel like this is a work in progress. I would not feel comfortable giving it blanket permissions for things like emails. It's not asking for those, to be fair. It's fairly limited in scope, but I do think, like with other agent builders, right? You're putting a lot of faith in the LLM's hand when you give it access to read and send emails.
Yeah, and I guess if everybody's targeting enterprise as companies and the enterprise offering, if you're already fully owned by your company, you're sort of less concerned about the whole thing, and that's sort of an easier lift than, let's say, selling to the individual that really cares about their personal kind of information and safety. Okay, so what do we know about under the hood? So I want to just set the context here, because in October they said, well, underneath of this thing lies the Deep Agents package, and then in December they sort of didn't mention it at all. But what they did say is that role-specific research agents were being built, and these role-specific deep research agents kind of require, as they put it, beyond workflow functionality. This process of doing research, of spawning sub-agents, of doing this all in a loop, of determining when the task is complete, wouldn't be possible with a simple deterministic workflow builder. And so therefore Agent Builder better. What do we know about how this works? Do we just assume that it's still deep agents under the hood? Can we see it? Or in this public beta, we just don't have a ton of information yet?
We know that it's built with that. Because they've told us, of course, and as well, like we can actually interact with it through code. So we get code snippets to consume it as an API, right? So we know it's doing something that's very similar to deep agents, if it's not literally deep agents, which I would expect it to be, right? Because that's what they said. At the end of the day, again, this is like abstracted from us. We're not getting to actually see we're not getting to peer into the source code. One of the things that's missing from this kind of workflow that I really appreciate about other agent builders is the ability to actually just export or dump out like the actual agent into code.
Yeah.
Right? So for someone like me, it's beneficial to be able to just go like export as code, right? But I can understand why they don't do that, right? This is their very prescriptive platform. It is better at building these styles of agents. I just have tools and use them in loops, right? Like, I mean, and it's easier to do this or to build this than it is to in the other builder tools, because you're really far away from the whole process, right? We don't get to like connect boxes. We're not doing that step, and that's a blessing and that's a curse. I do think that it is very simple, but simple agents can be quite powerful. We can add sub agents. We can add those sub agents, as effectively like mini agents, so they don't have the trigger, but they still have the instructions in the toolbox. So there's all kinds of like interesting things you can do, but it is meant to be more like you write a simple request, then you wind up with a thing. I don't think you're going to spend a lot of time building agents in this tool, and we don't know explicitly how it works.
So if I'm a product manager and I whip up a quick agent prototype,
yeah,
then my engineering team that I handed off to is kind of left, you know, having to build the whole thing from scratch. Classically, at least at this point, perhaps there'll be some sort of, you know, paid layer within LangSmith where you can export it out of code. Perhaps it'll be free, but they just raised a lot of money and they got to make a lot of money. So, you know, I could imagine this being a thing that they want to add to their now clearly paid platform of LangSmith. But right now, if your product guy or girl uses this thing and then tries to hand it off to you, you're kind of like, okay, cool. We got to do it from scratch anyways.
I mean, listen, this is not, if you had an engineering team, right? Like, you should have them build the feature or the product, right? You should have them engineer it. That's what you're essentially, it's what you're paying these people for. Right?
Well, should I be encouraging the product team and the data science team to be spinning up their own agents and then giving their sort of agents they spun up to me to sort of help me understand what they're looking for? Like, how do you see this being part of the way we engage with lesser technical teams as engineers? Or do you not see it? Yeah,
I don't see it that way right now.
Yeah,
for sure, right? Because again, it's missing that translation layer, that very critical translation layer between this thing and the thing that the engineer is going to interact with. Okay. You would be better just describing what you want the engineer to do. I mean, the engineer in that case is the agent builder for you, right? You can outline, just as you would to the agent builder in LangSmith, you can outline to your engineer what agent you want.
But I don't need an engineer, Wiz. I have an agent that can build agents now. Okay, it's called Agent Builder.
And if you want to build them for yourself or maintain little tools yourself, go for it. I just don't think it fits into a development flow cleanly because, again, there's not that translation layer, and it's it would be easier to skip this part and just go to the engineering, especially with the simplicity of these agents, right? They're extraordinarily simple.
Yeah.
It's not going to take your engineering team a long time to whip these up at all. It is only more limited than an engineer right now. It is
engineers.
If you don't have an engineer, makes sense. Okay, let's go. If you do have engineering team, boy, I have
an agent that writes code. So yeah, I mean, okay, so interesting. All right, let's keep it moving. Thank you, Wiz, for the insights. Okay, so interestingly, if we kind of think about this in context of other agent builders, this is from LangChain talking about OpenAI's agent builder in October. They said OpenAI's agent kit, like N8N, FlowWise, LangFlow, they're all visual workflow builders, not agent builders. And as we've talked about on this channel before, we want to understand that the combination of agents and workflows are needed to build these agentic systems. This has been talked about a lot this year from blogs from LangChain and others, including OpenAI, to AI Engineer Summit talks diving into this kind of detail. And when we think about, like, I think that there's a consensus, and the consensus is the magic happens when you combine these things together. This is a fun slide. Agents have tools, workflows have steps. An agent can be a step, a workflow can be a tool. An agent can be a tool, a workflow can be a step. So, like, this is true, especially as we've studied the different agent orchestration frameworks on this channel. You know, it's this particular guy, Sam, goes on to say that, you know, the way you would describe this to a non-technical friend, agents are kind of a turn-based game. Workflows are a rules engine. As we've talked about before, you know, if we have too many if, then, if, else, statements, we might consider an agent. If we, again, have too many, we might consider more agents. And the idea here that we get from this agent engineering manifesto kind of put out yesterday by LangChain is that agents can now handle workflows that previously required judgment, but only if you can make them reliable enough to trust. So there's this real balance between agency and workflows that we need to keep in mind. And with that in mind, let's talk about the agent builder, or should I say workflow builder from OpenAI. This was put out October 2025 as part of their agent kit, but we're specifically focused on the visual canvas drag and drop builder. This is kind of what we were expecting with LangSmith's Agent Builder, but it's not what we got. And they heard from companies when they released this, what once took months of complex orchestration, custom code, and manual optimizations, just took a couple of hours. Agent Builder allowed us to orchestrate agents in a whole new way. Engineers and subject matter experts collabing. And importantly, when we do this kind of no-code agent building, it's pointed out that it's kind of not such a low bar. The key is that the chat interface is a really low bar for getting started. When we talk about building an agent using a workflow builder, we still have to kind of know what's going on. We have to know what we're aiming at. We have to know what we're thinking about and how agents work. And to sort of demonstrate this in contrast to the chat interface, we got Wiz set up today to do a workflow builder demo with OpenAI's Agent Builder, second Agent Builder demo. Coming at you, Wiz, over to you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're going back. Whoop, here we go. This time we're an Agent Builder. Let's go. Love Agent Builder. And what we're going to do is we're going to create an agent, which we can do just by hitting create. We can see this, this is like a very visual experience, right? We can add nodes. We can change a bunch of stuff in nodes. I have, of course, pre-planned this whole thing with my, the flow. Now, something you're going to notice is that we don't have like the same easy to select, like, oh, where's my Slack button, right? Where's my linear button? I don't have that stuff. Instead, what I have is this MCP node. And now the MCP node is something that we can create. We can actually add the, our tokens to our MCP nodes, right? We can, in fact, when we create an MCP server, we can create a custom MCP server through this window, right? We can use a number of their pre-integrated options. All of the OAuth works, by the way, which is a big deal. Or we can create our own public MCP servers. Now, when we want to connect these up, one of the things that we're going to notice is we have like all of this kind of issue to work through, right? So like I have to now, provide all these inputs for my agent. So I have to go into my output and I have to make sure that all of the properties are in here. Like we need to have, repo, we need to have, owner, we need to have all of these properties, and then I have to update them. Then I have to go back and look, and I have to, and so on and so forth, right? And so the idea here is that it's more difficult, it's more work to do this, right? In fact, I can only do this so far as I can actually add the MCP server. So when I go to Slack's MCP server and I see something like the Slack MCP server is currently being rolled out to Slack partners, it's like, well, okay, I'm stuck, right? I'm immediately now having to code up or custom deploy some third-party MCP server for Slack, which I don't know and don't trust, and all these other things, and I wind up in this situation where I can't actually build the one-to-one agent in Agent Builder, right? Now, I can go to my code, and this is something that I can't do with my LangSmith version with LangChain's Agent Builder, right? And that's huge because I could get to this point and say, okay, all the widgets I need are here, and I'm going to go to the code, and I can just go ahead and copy paste this, and that's it, right? Now I'm gonna tie up the rest myself. But this is the kind of era we're in, right? Agent Builder is a neat tool, but it's not a it's again very limited, right? It requires more domain expertise, it requires more effort, it requires more code. You might say things like this aren't code, but I mean, it looks an awful lot like a big blob of JSON to me, right? You may say things like, MCP servers are not code, but in order to use this, I have to deploy an MCP server, right? Either one that I built myself or a third party, which I have to trust, but still deploy, right? And I mean, this is kind of the space we're in with agent builders. Is it feels like we're missing an ecosystem that supports this, right? And recently, of course, we saw the MCP being donated to open source, and the agents.md being donated to open source, and all of these other things to help us move towards this bright new future. But for me today, these tools are basically just a pathway that teaches you how limited these tools are and teaches you why you want engineers who know how to code. All this to say, while you can build simpler agents, right, that do stuff, and that's dope, something like this, right? Once we get into this bespoke functionality, we're instantly hosed, and we wind up back in a world where we're writing code, which for me is great. But for people who are trying to do this in a no-code fashion, they're going to hit a roadblock that they can't get over very quickly with current agent builder technology. And on that very optimistic note, I'll pass you guys back to Dr. Greg. Before I do, though, I have to tell you that we're here every Wednesday. We love doing these events with you guys. And please ring the bell notification on the old tuberinos. All right, back to Dr. Greg.
Like and sub. Okay, we got a quick discussion here, Wiz. So let's see. As we think about workflows, we think about agency, we think about these two types of builders now. While, neither one of them are sort of knocking the socks off today, is there a way that we should be thinking about using one or the other, or do we really feel like they are solving the same problem and they're interchangeable? Like, what's your takeaway from looking at both this morning?
Listen, if you know what a workflow is and you want to build one, then a workflow builder is not gonna it's not gonna hurt you at all. Okay. But if you don't know what you're talking about, if you're like, I don't even know what agent, bro, then Agent Builder from OpenAI is not the place to go. You have to know so many things right at the start. You have to know what all of these words mean and what all of these specific terms mean. You have to know what JSON is, and you have to understand how agents communicate with each other or with their tools. Versus the LangChain, which is just a bunch of drop downs and clicks. So if you're just getting started, I would say this is what Agent Builder from LangChain is for. If you're already relatively experienced, but for some reason you want a much more limited way to build a tool, then you should use OpenAI's Agent Builder.
That's kind of what we said when we covered Agent Builder last time. We said if you're just getting started, maybe Agent Builder. And now we're saying sort of because what they said, what LangChain said was, well, we're gonna make just taking that first step a lot easier. It's kind of like instead of seeing the blank, you can create any flowchart diagram space. Whoa, intimidating. You see my friendly chat box. I know what to do here. And so they did that, but then as soon as you're past that first step, it's kind of like you have to know still what's going on, right? Unless it works on one shot, you still kind of have to know the patterns of the agents. You still kind of have to know kind of the problem and the scope of it, and what a good solution would look and feel like. But it does feel very much more oriented towards the product manager, perhaps, than, if you can scope it, you can give it to the LangChain Agent Builder and see if it can do it. And if it can, cool. But probably the workflow builder is going to be a little bit more. So they're the same then, not different.
I wouldn't say they're the same. I would,
because we can't do loops as they mentioned, right? They can't do loops.
Yeah,
with the deep research thing.
It is they're different, and they build the different things, and the experience is different, and it feels different. And in my opinion, only the OpenAI one is much less useful long term than something like the text based interface of the LangChain tool.
Well, there's
today, as it currently stands, they've got a long time.
Yeah.
They just released it. So
I mean, listen, I think OpenAI knows what they're doing with chat based.
I think so.
And I would expect OpenAI's agent builder to be chat based in no time flat here. Okay, so then we'll get to Manny's queue in just a second here. So when we think about agents versus workflows, I mean, is there any sort of, I'm just looking for some rules of thumb here. Oh, you need to build an agent, go to the engineering team. You need to build a workflow, go to the product. It's never going to be that simple, right? Like, should we be scoping our problem, and should we be saying, okay, which part is a workflow that I can do sort of if-then rules-based decision tree? Which part is an agent that I really need the LLM to reason through and potentially act, potentially go spawn sub-agents? We're getting closer to this sort of, what are the steps to take for leveraging both workflows and agents? But it does seem to me that, the magic tool that sort of figures it out for you is seeming less like it's going to be a reality to me as we get this distinction growing. For AI engineers, we got agents, we got workflows. Maybe we throw out both of these tools and we just focus on writing code like we always have, and nothing changes. But for teammates, how do we tell them to think about this stuff? Less technical teammates. As the experts, we got to teach.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, just to be honest with you, it's tough because none of these tools are none of these tools are yet done. I mean, it's terrible to say you should wait until they're better, but I think maybe you should wait until they're better. Like, if you want to get started here and hit the roadblocks, like, that's fine. But I really struggle to understand what the best way to communicate about these tools to people who are getting the space is. It's like, if you don't know what this space is at all, maybe you play around with it, but you're very quickly going to be like, what the hell am I doing? Right? What is it? What's OAuth? Should I be worried about that? Yeah. And then what if my agent doesn't do what I want it to do? Like, what do I do next? Right? And it's just like, oh, well, fiddle with the prompt, I guess. But the prompt is specifically tailored for the tools that are being used. So it's really I don't know who these tools are for specifically.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have a really great way to communicate to people who are wanting to use them anything other than you may as well just open up Cursor and go into agent mode and interact that way, right? Like, that's what I would say. And it's like these experiences, but more, and you're still not going to understand anything, but it's way more flexible, and you can peek behind the curtain really easily and perhaps learn a thing or two if you were really into it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I like the idea that they're still cooking. And these things have potential, but the meta tool nature of them makes them so hard to, and the idea that you quickly get lost. We got to go manual before we go magical, just like anything else that we've automated in the history of the world. Do we understand it, how to do it? If not, maybe we should understand it first, and then we should do it, and then decide which tools to pick up to do it. Okay, so we saw Agent Builder, LangSmith. We saw Agent Builder, OpenAI. Whether we got workflow or agent builders, probably not going to take our jobs yet. Okay, great. Let's go. Okay, so Manny's got a question. Let's see if we got any other questions today. For robustness, things like error handling, fallbacks, graceful degradation, edge cases, contextual integrity, blah, blah, blah. Okay. How should I think about the sort of security, performance, robustness questions that I should be asking if somebody spins one of these up and it's like, yo, this is ready for production? You know, what should I be checking to make sure that it is in fact ready for production?
Like I would never put these systems in production. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why you would. There you go.
Nice. Okay. All
Sorry
right.
to say, Manny. I know. You know. I mean, at least for I'll say this for Agent Builder OpenAI version, you can just look at the code.
You can get the code
make
straight
the
up.
determination to make it better, right? You can add security to your heart's content. For the LangSmith option, we don't have that ability. So there's I can't speak to exactly what they've done behind the scenes. They make some claims about security, but I really don't. We don't have the ability to audit that ourselves at this moment, at this exact moment of time, as it was just released in the first public beta, right? So again, they're still cooking. I'm not gonna. Yeah, there you go.
Maybe. Okay, there you go, Manny. Don't do it. Okay, let's go. Well, I guess, we all have to deal with workflows versus agents, as this fire kind of viral meme suggests. And I think as AI engineers, we got to bring it back down to earth with people. We got to denoise the hype. Yes, there are agent builders. Yes, let me show you how to use it. Could be a tactic. Let me walk you through what's happening if you describe the problem to me, and then let me show you where the bottlenecks are. So the reasons why we need to be building it with a different tool. Perhaps you can teach your team using these tools. Perhaps they're good teaching tools. Maybe not so good for production today, unless we're converting it directly to production code. Classic. All right.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. Those are the agent builders for 2025, year of agents. We got no code, but maybe it's not fully ready yet. Maybe it's not fully baked. We'll see in 2026.
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. Thanks for your insights. As always, Wiz. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another weekly Wednesday AI Makerspace event. We are on a mission at AI Makerspace to create the world's leading community for people who want to build, ship, and share production LLM applications. If you haven't joined our Discord community, jump in now. 3,000 really cool, really competent builders, shippers, and sharers, practitioners getting after it and building cool stuff all the time. If you're looking to accelerate your AI engineering career, your agent engineering career, we are all in on agent engineering for cohort 9. That's V0.9 of the AI Engineering Bootcamp, kicking off just about a month from today after the holiday break on January the 13th. Learn more in the link on the live chat. And with that, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another weekly event. Next week, we'll cover prompt optimization properly. And this is one of the key things that we can do to really take our applications to the next level from a performance perspective. We'll talk about the details, things that have happened since we last covered DSPY on this channel. It is still the leading tool, and we're excited to close it out strong. for the new year. We'll be taking a couple weeks off after next week's event just because of the way Christmas and New Year's fall this year. So let us know other events you'd like to see in the new year. We are going to continue to make it more advanced, more interesting, more geared towards you guys that show up every week and that are really community members that have been a part of this journey since the beginning. And we're excited to keep it going into 2026 and many years beyond. So thanks again for coming this week. Have a great week, everybody. Until next time, keep building, shipping, and sharing, and we'll do the same. See you next time.